All right, Rich.
All right, Chris, how's things? How's the coffee, mate?
Lovely. Absolutely average.
Um, Chris, looking ahead to this weekend, they keep coming thick and fast. They don't get any easier. But as you keep telling us, these are the games that you take up this profession to be involved in, isn't it?
Absolutely. 100%. Really looking forward to it. Really enjoyed my team's performance and the way they went about against the best team in the Premier League and possibly one of the top teams in Europe. So more of the same. Can we just get that balance of really good performance with maybe getting something from the game? And the players are in good spirits this week. They know they're in the division to pick up points. They understand that, but they understand as well a good performance from a not so good one, and we can take heart from that at Anfield last Saturday.
How pleasing was that raise in standard of performance at a place where you had a tough time 12 months ago?
Yeah, we did, and I said afterwards, I really don't believe there's been an incredible dip in the standard of performances from the first few games back in the Premier League last year to the ones this year. But boring everybody with the same things that I'm coming out with is what happens in both boxes. But the manner of the performance, in terms of us playing our more like our game, our natural game, and hopefully we took belief in obviously footholding the game early on and taking the lead. We're always going to get pushed back there. We understand that. We were really disappointed in the manner of the couple of goals that we conceded, which we needed to do better with. But I think when I think stats-wise, were fabulous for the team that we were playing against. And obviously, there's loads of stats that go around comparing, teams in this division when they go to Anfield, and they were right up there. But ultimately, you want to come away from a good performance with a result, and there was a lot of disappointed players, staff in that changing room afterwards. But we have to go again quickly. We understand that's the nature of the competition, and we've had another good week. And I think just from your opening question, Rich, this is why we want to be in this division.
How do you approach a team like Manchester City then, Chris? Because I heard everybody earlier this week talking about how they were down a striker. They go away in Europe, don't start a striker and win very comfortably. Without meaning any disrespect to you or your club, if you're going to get a win against Manchester City, do you need an element of luck on the day as well?
I think every team's after that little bit of fortune, and things go against every team in the season. So yeah, of course, you're after that. You're after everybody playing to the top of their game, and maybe some of their players not being at the top of their game, because the gulf's incredible. And I don't need to go into it, but you understand the gulf in terms of where Manchester City are and where Sheffield United are as a football club. So to bring that as close as it possibly can be to get a result, without doubt, and obviously there's got to be a few things that have to go your way, and players playing well, defending in the correct and proper manner, being hard to beat out to play against out of possession, and obviously when the opportunity arises, as we did on Saturday night at Anfield, taking the game to the opposition. But off the back of that, it's not just about taking the game to the opposition, getting in the final third and getting some passes together and working your way up the pitch. You've got to take those chances when they come around. And just looking back at the game last year against Manchester City, fabulous game. Soft penalty given against us, great save, 0-0 at half-time. I think we just had a period just before Kevin De Bruyne found an incredible pass, and Aguero tapped it in for a narrow win for Manchester City. But just before that period, we had two or three opportunities where, if you take those, then obviously it gives you a better chance of getting a result. But these are the fine lines, and this is the quality that you're up against. I keep seeing that pass in my head, and I keep seeing it on Sky as well. So if you can do us a favour, tell your producers to get it off for a couple of days. That'd be great. But in a serious manner, these are the players that you're up against. Kevin De Bruyne's and Sterling's, and I can go on all day, Connor. But it's great that we're up against them, and let's see what we can do.
I'll have a word and see what we can do for you on that as well, Chris. You started Ryan Brewster at Liverpool on Saturday night. He got 55, 60 minutes, I think, under his belt. Has he come through that better for the match sharpness, that experience?
Yeah, it wouldn't have done him any harm at all. There's no downside to playing Ryan, as I talked about it before, and we'd have liked him possibly to have been in a better condition than what he was. I've talked about it, in between 23s and first team sometimes, and we have that issue with a couple of our younger players as well. So the timing was maybe difficult for Ryan against Fulham, but he has to go in. It is a really difficult situation for especially a young player. I think even experienced players would have. It's not always comfortable going back to your old club unless there's maybe a bit of angst between the club and yourself, which I've had a couple of times in my career. But there certainly wasn't any of that in terms of Ryan as a young player, well-respected player at Liverpool, and knowing from what Ryan's talked about Liverpool and the manager. Vice versa as well. He loved his period there. So it was a difficult evening for him, but he's come through it, and he'll go again, and he'll be better for that experience.
If I can, Chris, as well, I just want to finish with a subject we've discussed on several occasions previously. We first met when you were at Halifax and training on parkland with a few cones down, so you know what it's like at the bottom end of the Football League. Rochdale's chief executive, Dave Bottomley, has told us today that he's aware of up to 10 Football League clubs that without some sort of bailout will be out of business by the end of November. How serious is it down there now, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it is, and that can't happen. That's my basic view of it. No club should go out of business, and whatever the football world needs to do to make sure that these clubs survive and carry on and prosper, because I know how much that football club would mean to the people in and around that area, and it is quite easy for people in that area to go and support the obvious clubs, but they don't. They do it for a reason, and everything should be done, Rich, in my opinion, to make sure that we protect the game and protect the pyramid. And I think there's always going to be teams that overspend and put themselves in situations that they shouldn't do, and obviously that is another issue. But football clubs that run their businesses in a sensible, pragmatic way should be respected for that approach and looked after in times like we're in at the moment.
I suppose the problem is there seems to be this constant wrangling, doesn't there, between the Premier League and the government, whose responsibility it is. I appreciate you're a Premier League manager, so you might not want to answer this, but do you have any thoughts on ultimately where the buck rests?
Well, just let's pull together. I think that's what we're all looking for, and I think just in the bigger picture as well. I think everybody's looking for that leadership, but everybody's looking to pull together to get the correct answer. So for me, however it happens, or whatever the how we get to that decision or get to that answer, that's up to people to maybe swallow their pride and show a bit of humility regarding it, and making sure that, as we said at the in terms of the question that you asked, that no club goes goes under or goes out of business. There's plenty of it can be plenty of time to reflect on that if that does happen, and it certainly can't.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
Take care, mate.
And you, mate.
Hi, Chris. Morning. It's Andy from Radio Sheffield here.
Morning, Andy.
All right. So let's change tack to team news then. Post Anfield, how is Lowe today, and is he available for selection this weekend?
He missed out by a day, Andy. That was a really frustrating point of view, frustrating situation for myself, because Max has been excellent since he's come into the football club, and him and Jayden have been really pushing, and really looking forward to him, starting his career at Sheffield United, and the qualities that I've seen and everybody else has seen, taking that into the Premier League. So to after 10 or 15 minutes suffer the injury that he did was really unfortunate, and obviously the timing of it being on that day and the protocols that we had to go through was the reason that he missed out. He was basically training full tilt at the back end of the week, but because of the days and the protocol regarding head injuries, no chances taken by anybody, and rightly so, he missed out.
From the squad that was at Anfield, are there any other issues for this one?
No, there's no other issues. So Max is back with us. Flake still out injured, possibly for the next 4 weeks. Mousset boot off, back working on the grass. So looking at him to progress in the next 3 to 4 weeks, and obviously Jack O'Connell is the longer one, really. That in the early stages of his rehabilitation.
With Rhys, then, is that a little better? Because I could have sworn a couple of weeks ago you were thinking maybe it's still a couple of months for him. So has there been a bit?
A month ago.
Well, a couple. I suppose I'm playing with weeks here.
Yeah. I mean, for that type of injury, Andy, it really is. It's not an exact science and not an exact date. So he might be earlier than expected, but we're possibly looking in around the start of December for him to be hopefully available. It might be a couple of weeks afterwards. Who knows if it's a slower process? But these are the important times now for Rhys and us in the work that we put into him. And as you can obviously understand, we will be absolutely ramping that up, because he has been an important player for us, and he will be going forward.
Speaking of players who've continued to rise to prominence, he's up for press today. How would you sum up Sander Berger's development and rise to where he is right now? Because in the last couple of weeks he's been first class.
Well, he has. I mean, we invested in a talented young footballer that was playing in a different league. I always remember one of the highlights of my days here at this football club was his debut. The way the players took to him, the scenes afterwards. It was just incredible the way the supporters took to Sander and gave him the welcome. I don't think he'll ever underestimate how big a day that was in his football career. But from my point of view, Sander coming off after about 60 minutes and could barely breathe because of the pace and the intensity of the Premier League. And what he's done is, through the lockdown period, worked extremely hard. And I think you've got to recognise as well that there was 4 or 5 young players at our football club through that period that couldn't see the family, couldn't see the friends, a long way from home. At times couldn't really see any of the teammates, and had to get on with it in a city far, far away from where they'd been brought up with. So that was a tough period for him, but I thought it just showed what he was about as a person, and not just as a player. How he worked through that period, and how they all did. and the signs that we all saw after lockdown in the remaining 10 games of the season. I think arguably he was our best player, and this season as well, he's been exceptional. He's played as a sitting midfield player. He's got that mobility to play that position. He's got the intelligence to play that position, but he's still got the power as well to play one up. So wherever he plays for us, he's certainly a big player for us. But I believe he's been outstanding. Obviously, taking the penalty at Liverpool shows what we think about him and the courage that he has for a young man. And he hopefully he's going to be part of a bright future at this football club. And
hit it off with Ampadu in midfield last week. I mean, that was one of the key high points, wasn't it, of the match at Anfield? As a first goal for those to play in that role together at that venue, they really hit it off.
Definitely. If the game has moved on, you have to be so mobile as a professional footballer now. Mobility is a key word everybody uses because of the mobility and athleticism in other teams. So I believe that was the right formation for us, and obviously we changed it when we really had to go for it second half. The game does become a bit stretched, but when you've got the likes of Xander and Ethan, the way they get about the park, it gives you a little bit more security. So I thought Ethan's performance was outstanding. I know the manager at Chelsea sees him as a sitting midfield player. He obviously played right centre half at Leipzig and in the middle of a back three at Leipzig as well in his time there. So they saw him at that position. But I thought both of them were outstanding last Saturday night. But mobility, Andy, really is key. They've got to be able to handle the football. They've got to be able to tactically put themselves in good positions, which they both did for a young age. They're both learners. They're both very enthusiastic about learning, about getting better. Got a huge appetite for that. But the game is moving on, and it is a mobile game, and players have to get about the park. And we've certainly got players that can do that, and certainly in them two, they certainly possess those qualities.
Come on to the City match in a moment in time, but there's been talk further this week about John Lundstrom and his immediate future. How do you see it playing out then? Is it a definite departure in January?
Yeah, it's been very frustrating for myself personally. I want John to stop. I wanted to stop here. We were been in discussions for quite a number of months regarding him stopping. It's not a situation that I've had to encounter too many times here, where players go into the last year of the contract. So the discussions have obviously taken place before that, because we don't act like that as a football club. But got to respect John's decision. We've offered him a very, very attractive contract, as far as I'm concerned, as far as football club concerned, that's up there with the top players at the football club. And he's made a decision that him and his agent, that he doesn't want to sign it, which is fine, and I respect that. He's still a Sheffield United player, so he's still available for selection. But we've come into a period where, there's three options for me. It's quite straightforward. He personally runs down his contract, which he's got every right to do that at the end of the season. That's not ideal for us. We try to recoup some value from the player in the January window, which is obviously the best option for Sheffield United. Or the best option for Sheffield United is that he signs that new and improved contract, which obviously doesn't or won't happen, which is unfortunate. And so there, I think that's pretty straightforward. He isn't going to sign a new contract. He most probably wants to run his contract down, or we will ask or invite offers for a very good young player that's been in the Premier League, first season in the Premier League, and did well, especially the early part of it. But I think my attitude towards it. I'll move on, and obviously we'll I'm not think too much about it. I've got to really concentrate players who want to commit and sign here, which the likes of Fleck, Stevens, Norwood, the new players have, the players that have been on the journey with us have, John Egan has, Basham has, Sharp has. So we feel it's a very, very good offer, and there's always two sides to it, and John and his agent feel that they want to maybe negotiate elsewhere. So basically that's where it's at.
Yeah, and does it provide a dilemma for you as to whether to play him or not then?
I've got to make that decision. I've got to look at that in a short, medium, and long term view. So with the players that have committed to us, should I side behind those, or a player that doesn't want to sign for the football club? I think that I believe that if John does play, that he will do his best. He will do his best, and I wouldn't pick him if I didn't think he wasn't in the right frame of mind, or he wouldn't step out onto the pitch. I wouldn't select him. So, but obviously I've got to think quite hard with it, and I'm very, very frustrated about that. Cards on the table. I think John should have signed it, and he don't believe he should sign it, and his agent should sign it. So that's basically where it's at.
Changing tack then, look, I appreciate all things are relative, but what do you make of this Man City group right now? Have teams like West Ham, most notably in the Premier League, perhaps shown that this City team have lost some kind of air of invincibility? Clearly they've got some amazing players, but they're not necessarily where they were 12 months ago.
I just think that football is an incredible business that we're involved in, and there will always be opinion on it. I didn't see much loss of invincibility about them in midweek when they were playing in the Champions League. If I'm honest, if teams don't win games, there's always, especially the likes of Manchester City, there's always going to be people offering an opinion upon them, and doubting players and doubting managers. And we've had it ourselves, and I should imagine in from a relative point of view, people will be looking at us and saying that all the things that maybe people are saying relatively up the food chain regarding Manchester City. They won't be bothered about that at all. They've got world-class players. They invest in world-class players. They've got a manager that's been incredibly successful wherever he's gone. An outstanding Liverpool team won the Premier League ahead of them, and we're still into game 6, 7 of the early part of a season. For me, no judgment can be made after this part of the season, and especially not on players of the calibre of what they possess, and a manager and a football club that is one of the most powerful, not just in this country, not just in Europe, but in world football. So I'm not going to offer any opinion on them. Whether they think it's a slow start for them, as much as I think it's been a slow start for us. I think that maybe comes from within. But I think this is just the world that we live in, Andy, and people will want to talk about people's failings when they don't maybe hit the heights that everybody thinks that they should do from the off. They might have the same issues. They might have a couple of injuries that have affected them and a few bits and pieces, a couple of players that really they need to get up to speed. But that can happen with world-class players pretty quickly. I think when you're talking about players, getting up to speed and hitting form, when they're average players and they lose form, it takes a lot longer. When they're world-class players, which they've definitely got, it can quickly turn around. And obviously, for their point of view, they would have been expected to go and beat Manchester City. But they did. They're going to expected to beat West Ham, but they didn't. And they'll be looking to come and they'll be expected to beat Sheffield United, and it's up to us to put up that stern challenge and opposition like we did last Saturday at Liverpool.
Great. Best of luck. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Andy.
Morning, Chris.
Morning, Mandy.
Morning. I'm just wondering, Richard mentioned the striker situation at Manchester City earlier. Clearly, they're a different beast without the likes of Aguero and Jesus. How do you prepare for that?
They've still got good players. Sterling can play up there. Torres played up there midweek. They find a way. They find a way to work out to replace like everybody else has to. So, and I do understand why they don't carry 4 or 5 world-class strikers. I do understand because the top teams don't. Tottenham talked about it last year in terms of, when Harry Kane was out, but majority of the time Harry Kane plays, majority of the time Aguero plays, majority of the time Mane, Salah and Firmino play. So I suppose a big issue and a big conundrum is to keep 2 or 3 other world-class strikers happy and smiling when you've already got world-class players. But they'll find a way, whether it's a formation, whether it's playing somebody else at the top of the pitch, off a wide. We're not looking at that as anything else as Manchester City bringing their A game to Bramall Lane on Saturday.
Speaking to a few of your players, they were talking about having such a good season last term has really raised those expectations and kind of joking that you've all made it hard for yourselves. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, we have. Why didn't we finish 17th? Why didn't we need a result on the last day of the season to stay up? No, it's how it is. You don't turn it down. We never turned it down when the door opened to the Premier League, where we shouldn't have been anywhere near. It opened, and we took that chance and that opportunity. And I'm certainly one for not games that we feel we can win, drawing, and games that we can draw in, losing to affect our league position. So, it was deserved last year. Our league position, of course, expectation levels rise, but I think in the football world, people understand the game and understand where we are at as a football club, and maybe some uneducated people don't, but I think majority of people in and around the game that know the football understand the situation and how tough the Premier League is.
Just a final one from me. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spoke recently about how the sterile atmosphere at Old Trafford is affecting them. How are you and your players dealing with it? Ole was talking about the fact it was very new after lockdown, the experience, and everyone was just happy to get back to football. But now without the fans, how are you guys dealing with it?
Honestly, I think this has affected Sheffield United more than any football club in the Premier League, not having any supporters. Because the small wins that we need to have to bridge the gap between us and the majority of the football clubs in the Premier League, keeping your best players fit, having the bounce of a ball, keeping your best players or all of your team on top of the game, and the effect that our support has had on us over that period, and especially in the Premier League, has been absolutely huge. So, as seen in our performances, we're not sorry for ourselves, but it's certainly something that I believe we missed more than possibly any club in the Premier League. I think, you know, the promoted teams and the teams that maybe aren't expected to do well need that push and that support that gives them the extra percentage that can close the gaps on us versus the other teams in the division.
Thank you.
Cheers, Monday.
Morning, Chris. It's Alex from TalkSport.
Hey, Alex.
Just on Ryan Brewster, I'm sure you had an extensive list of striker targets. What set him apart? What was the main reason that you went for him above the rest on that list?
Oh, we didn't have an extensive list. It was quite a small list, I'll be honest with you. But price comes into it. Contract situation comes into it. So there's always things like that. So it's not just go out and get a centre forward. Suits our play. Two at the top of the pitch, goal scorer, box player, a young player that he can prove and grow with us. He can improve himself, and we can try to improve him as well. So if it's the identity of the football club, the players that we've signed in the summer, if you've looked right the way through, two fullbacks from Derby, young boys, Aaron Ramsdale, young, Ethan Ampadu, Xander Berger in the last window, young players, because that's where we're at with it, and young players that can grow with us and improve with us, attitude, character. So, like everybody else, Alex, really, on other stuff outside the financial situation, other stuff that you're looking for, you know, tactically, does he suit your system? Does he give you what maybe we were missing last year, which obviously was in and around the penalty area? He's a goal scorer and he's a box player. So there's obviously certain things there that sort of attracted us to Ryan.
It's interesting you mentioned his character there and his attitude, because from what I'm told, he's a really down-to-earth individual. He's got a really infectious personality. Was that a big attraction for you as well?
Yeah, 100%. When I first met him, you know, all the things that I'd heard about him, you know, were exactly on point to the things, and wanted to come here. That's got to be a big thing as well for us. Wasn't interested in a lot of other things that maybe sometimes players get interested in, and agent-wise as well. So he felt this was the best place for his development, for him to get Premier League games and to improve his career as well in what we do as well.
And you've already talked about how well Sander Berger settled into the dressing room. Has it been the same with Ryan? Is he right at home straight away? Yeah,
I mean, I should imagine the only person you need to ask is to ask the players and himself. But by all accounts, you know, looking around and looking at his body language, you know, he don't feel he's made an incredibly poor decision. He's found a home and he's found a group of players that will help him, and he enjoys being around, and staff and a football club. You know, we're very inclusive as a football club. It's a very tight-knit group of players and staff, which, as you can imagine, we've had to be to work towards where we are at the moment.
Thank you. That's great.
Cheers, Alex.
From TV2.
Yeah, hello, Chris. My name is Per Karlsson from TV2 Norway.
Hi.
Hi. You talked about Sander Berge, and you seem to be quite happy with his performances so far. And just how good do you think he can be, and how much of a leader is he for you guys in the dressing room? Thank you.
Yeah, he's a very mature 21-year-old. The way he talks about the game, the way he interacts with you from a tactical point of view when you're talking about the game and his role and other people's roles, how quickly he takes on information, his personal desire to do well, the way, just everything really. The way he interacts with the other players, humble guy that wants to do well for his team, and understands that if he does well for his team, then the personal accolades and what he gets out of those will come his way. But not just a really exciting player to be involved in, just a really good person as well. Very humble, very engaging. Just a top person, as well as a really good young professional footballer that's got a huge future in the game. Cheers, Per.
Thank you.
So that's the end of the broadcast section. We'll go to the embargo written section. Shieldsy.